Hey VC, it's Joel coming at you from Planet 13, and this is my Record Store Day 2020 drop number 1 pickup video and my August 2020 haul. I only picked up 2 albums for Record Store Day, but fortunately they were the albums I was most interested in, and I will show those at the start of my video when I show the albums. There were, of course, other albums that I wanted to pick up, but they weren't there when I went to the record store, and when I looked online they were unavailable as well. They were sold out in my region or in Canada, and when I looked on eBay and Discogs they were listed, but they were quite pricey, and I think the prices were pretty inflated, so I'm just going to wait. Plus we have potentially 3 more record store days if we count Black Friday. Haven't seen an announcement about that yet, but we know for sure we're probably going to have 2 or 3 if things go according to plan. Again, things could be shut down in your region, so who really knows what's going to happen. But there were some essential albums that I wanted for Record Store Day 2 and 3, and I should save up for those because you tend to spend a lot of money on Record Store Day just because of the fun situation Record Store Day is and the hype behind it and the limited pressings. Anyway, enough of that. Let's just cut to what I picked up. Here's my first Record Store Day pickup, and it is Army of Darkness. It's pressed on black vinyl and limited to 2,000 copies, which means there's probably 1,000 copies on eBay right now for you to pick up. This boasts being the first pressing with the original cover art. Here's the gatefold. You get some nice liner notes, some good images as well. And again, it's pressed on black vinyl with some nice custom labels. And this is a 2 LP set. The main composer here is Joseph LaDuca, but Danny Elfman does one of the tracks called March of the Dead theme, which you can see on side C. Something that is interesting about this album is the way it unfolds. It kind of unfolds like a poster would. My second and last Record Store Day drop number 1 pickup was Teenage Head Drivin'. This is Teenage Head doing a Beach Boys cover. And then on side B you get alternate version of Blood Boogie done by Daniel Lanois. And you also get Don't Cage Me In by the band. And this is a radio edit. This is pressed on red vinyl. Teenage Head is from my city, so there were lots of copies available. And it's always exciting for Record Store Day to roll around and see someone local put out some albums. And now we're on to my regular August hauls. The first album I picked up was The Stooges live at Goose Lake. This was put out by Third Man Records, and I picked this up because I am an Iggy Pop and Stooges fan, but I wasn't really familiar with Funhouse, believe it or not. I know the Stooges debut album quite well, and Raw Power is a personal favorite of mine, but I never got into Funhouse because just at the time when I was getting into the Stooges, it was either out of print or it was just really pricey. As this album was the first time they've played Funhouse live, before the album even came out, I was kind of experiencing the same experience as a concert goer in some degree. Probably to enjoy this album more though, I probably should be more familiar with the Funhouse material. I decided to pick this up because Dylan from the Record Spinner is always showing these amazing Third Man Record albums, and I knew the company put a lot of care into their products that they distribute, and like always, Dylan did not steer me wrong. This is a fantastic album pressing in terms of packaging and quality. Sure, it's a live album, so it's not always going to sound perfect, but the packaging on this is just phenomenal. You get this fantastic insert with lots of text to read. It all captures the moment of this concert. A great story, a great little essay, and it is a lot of material to read. You get some nice posters in here as well, and some nice just little letters or memos concerning the concert. You also get a nice anti-static sleeve, so you'll notice most of my records in the video that I'm showing are quite dusty, and that's because they came in paper sleeves, but this one isn't as dusty because it comes in a nice anti-static sleeve. For any record enthusiasts shocked and appalled by my dusty records, fear not. After taking these images of my records, I have cleaned them and put them in proper sleeves. The next album I picked up is the Best of Bon Jovi, Crossroad. I had this on CD. I got it when it originally debuted and always enjoyed it. I'm trying not to buy most of my albums on vinyl that I had on CD just so I can save a bit of money, but the pricing on this I could not pass up on. So this is a 2 LP set, and you get some nice custom inner sleeves. These inner sleeves, the records seemed to be pretty difficult to pull out the first time. There was so much static. It was trying to like wrestle a frisbee out of a German shepherd's mouth. And as you can see, my album, when I pulled it out, is quite dusty because it attracted any dust I had in the house. And since it was summer around here, I had my windows open, and that's why this album is especially dusty. But overall, fantastic album, and I've enjoyed listening to this. The next album I picked up is Legend by Bob Marley. I picked this up for 17 Canadian dollars, which is equivalent to like 12 American dollars. This is a 2 LP set. There was a sale on a website and I couldn't pass it up. The sale was in honor of Bob Marley's 75th birthday. And you get a nice gatefold here. It's not uncolored vinyl, but I'm not really a color enthusiast for all albums. I do appreciate it, but black always works for me. The next album I picked up is Thin Lizzy, Chinatown. This is my third Thin Lizzy pickup, and you get some nice custom inner sleeves here, some nice artwork. I was very new going into this album. I didn't know any of the songs, but from what I listened to, it's probably my third favorite. My first favorite right now is Johnny the Fox, followed by Jailbreak, and then this, but those are the only 3 Thin Lizzy albums I've actually heard. It is my goal to pick up most of their catalog, so I will be listening to more. I'm just taking my time with it and enjoying each record so I become familiar with their underrated music. Compared to the other albums I've heard by Thin Lizzy, this album is just a little bit more fun, although there are some songs that reference moments in history. If you have any suggestions on what the 4th album I should pick up by the band is, please leave a comment below. Right now, I probably think it's gonna be Thunder and Lightning. Here we have Reality by David Bowie. I wasn't familiar with this album per se, but I did see him on the tour for this album, and I'm glad I did because it was probably one of his last tours. You get some fantastic packaging on this album. You get a nice little booklet. I shouldn't say little, it actually has quite a few pages in it, and I'll just scroll through them now. It has some nice images and such. The songs, I would say, they kind of remind me of Black Star. It's got that cool, jazzy Bowie feel to it. There's a song on here called Pablo Picasso, which I was familiar with from the Repo Man soundtrack, but I guess that was a cover in and of itself. I'll have to look more into that. But this booklet is quite nice to look at, and I enjoyed reading it as I listened to the album. Here we have Collective Soul, their first album. This is not the Record Store Day album that was issued about 2 years ago on red vinyl. This is reissued on black vinyl. I have fond memories of this album. It came out right around when I was in high school, and it was just good rock and roll. There was a song on here called Shine that I absolutely loved in high school. It was just such a good, feel-good kind of song, and I have fond memories of this album. In particular, I first heard the album on my way to go see Pulp Fiction as a kid. I was too young to actually get into the theater, so we had to sneak in, and I just remember fond memories of driving up to the theater, listening to this album, all excited about getting in to see this movie. At the same time, I picked up Collective Soul's second album, and this is the first time it is pressed on vinyl, and it is the 25th anniversary. This album is fantastic. There is not one bad song on this album. Every song is pretty much a hit. If you're even curious about Collective Soul, this is the album I would recommend you pick up first. Collective Soul have kind of fell off the radar. They're very popular in the late mid-90s. I believe I've seen them 3 times live, with the last time being Woodstock 99. I kind of forgot all about them, and then I saw these come up, and I just remembered how fantastic these songs are. Now we get into the Metal Steve portion of my video, and the first album I picked up is Dio Angry Machines. This is a lenticular cover, so it looks a little fuzzy on camera. It's one of those covers that moves, has a 3D effect as you move it around. Comes in a nice gatefold. Here is the back cover. And again, this is a dusty album because it's summertime, and again, I had my windows open. This album has been cleaned before I played it, so do not freak out. But you get some nice custom artwork in here, a nice little poster that recreates the cover if you're not happy with the lenticular effect. Overall, this album, I enjoyed it. I think I liked it better than a couple of his previous albums. My favorite song on here is probably Black. This is more of a 90s Dio, so it's not his kind of classic kind of rock and roll sound. It has like a bit of a 90s edge, which might turn off some Dio fans. And personally, I'm not a big fan of the cover art on this album. I kind of like the next album I picked up cover art better, and that is Dio Killing the Dragon. Again, you have a nice little lenticular cover here. This album I found a little weaker than Angry Machines. You have a nice little gatefold here. I only really liked 3 songs on here. I didn't mind the other songs. Maybe upon more listenings, I'll appreciate more of the other songs. Killing the Dragon is a song I liked. And then Rock and Roll has like a pretty cool Led Zeppelin kind of sound to it. And then Throw Away the Children is a nice little metal ballad. But the other songs did not resonate with me at the moment. I wasn't initially going to pick up these albums, but the completist in me said, well, you got most of Dio's other albums, you might as well pick these up while they are in print. And the price came down, so I snagged these 2. There are 2 more albums I need to pick up from this era, which are Master of the Moon and Magica, and again, those come on lenticular gatefold albums. Here's another anniversary album I picked up, Anthrax Persistence of Time. I believe this is the 35th anniversary of the album. You get a nice little gatefold here with this album to house the 4 LPs it comes on. So there is a lot to unpack here. Basically, most of the album is on the first 2 LPs, with side D of the second LP having some bonus live tracks and some bonus outtakes. But the other 2 LPs are mostly demos, and they're mostly kind of like Scott Ian singing through some of the songs, or they're instrumentals. I wouldn't say they are essential, but what I paid for the album, it wasn't overly expensive. It's not like I paid too much extra for these extra 2 LPs. And it comes on a nice kind of orange and black album. All the albums have like this look to them. They're all basically identical, and they all have the same labels, so I'm not going to show all of them. You get lyrics to everything, but I kind of wish they had like a little essay or something just to talk about the album recording experience. That would have been fun and interesting, but maybe we'll see that when they reissue this album for the 40th anniversary. This is the first Judas Priest album I've ever owned on vinyl, and it is Painkiller. I saw Judas Priest on this tour. I originally had this on cassette, always liked it on cassette, so I snagged it on vinyl. Judas Priest is a band I'd like to get into. Just their vinyl right now is just rather pricey. This came down in price, so I picked it up. I've seen Judas Priest live 4 times, the last time being 2 years ago. It was Judas Priest and Deep Purple. Priest were amazing, although there's only about 2 or 3 original band members left. That's not a big deal to me. I know the band's getting on in the years, and it's hard for certain members to keep up with their performances. I believe one of the guitarists has Parkinson's, and he came out for a song, which was great to see. My next metal album is Metallica Death Magnetic. This was a phenomenal price. I paid 22 Canadian for it. It's a 2 LP album. I originally had this on CD, and I had I think it was a Rock Band version, which is apparently the best version to listen to. That's the Rock Band version is the one where you put it in your Xbox and you'd play along on some plastic guitar. The CD, people always complained that it was too compressed. I really don't understand what compression is. I'm kind of dumb that way, so it always sounded fine to me. So if you have a question if this album LP is compressed, I couldn't really tell you. I saw the tour for this album, and it was probably the last time I saw Metallica. I've seen them several times because they are just a touring machine. And I actually like all of the songs on this album, but it's not an album I listen to a lot anymore. I listened to it quite a bit when it debuted and always enjoyed it because I wasn't a big fan of Saint Anger or the Load Reload albums. And this kind of reminded me more of the Master of Puppets, Ride the Lightning era of the band. This is a soundtrack album I bought for Natural Born Killers. This, like the album, is just a mishmash of everything. You get Bob Dylan, L7, Cowboy Junkies, Leonard Cohen, 9 Inch Nails, Jane's Addiction, just a whole slew of everyone, every kind of style of music at the time when this album came out. I mostly bought it for the L7 song Shit List. I just love that song. It wasn't on their greatest hits, so I was happy to get it on this. There was also a couple of 9 Inch Nails songs on here that I wanted as well to have on vinyl because I've been trying to get most of Nine Inch Nails' catalog on vinyl. And the final album I picked up is the Running Man soundtrack. This is to the Arnold Schwarzenegger 80s movie. This is issued on 2 LPs. Some nice quality packaging, although even though I am not a colored vinyl enthusiast, I wish they did issue this on color because the movie itself features a lot of neon colors, especially the jumpsuits that Arnold and the other colorful cast members are wearing. And of course, you get some nice inner sleeves with some nice documentation about the score itself and the movie. Really fantastic stuff here. Worth picking up if you're a fan of the movie. That wraps up my vinyl haul for this month. Until next time, cheers.